All right, so today we're diving into one of the coolest, most complex X-Men there is, Nightcrawler. We've got a mountain of Nightcrawler info here, and we're going to teleport straight into all the things that make him tick.
Sounds good to me.
Now, I've got to say, Nightcrawler's always been one of those characters that grabs you right away, I mean, just looking blue fur, those intense yellow eyes, a tail, not exactly your typical superhero. He seems more likely to star in a horror movie than, well, save the world with the X-Men, right?
Oh, absolutely. You see him and you think, demon. And here's the thing. He was raised in a loving, supportive environment. Imagine that. Looking like something out of a nightmare, but growing up in a circus family.
A circus family.
Yeah.
Seriously, that's quite a contrast.
Right. But it totally shaped who he is. This unusual upbringing is key to understanding why Nightcrawler, despite his looks, is one of the most compassionate and approachable X-Men.
So it's like his appearance is totally at odds with his personality. That's got to make you wonder about those old circus sideshows, how they played on our fear of the unknown, the different. But I'm getting off track here. Tell me more about how this upbringing, this circus life, shaped the Nightcrawler we know.
Well, think about it. He could have easily retreated into himself, hidden away because of his appearance. But he didn't. He embraced the spectacle. Heck, he even performed as a trapeze artist. That says a lot about his character right there.
It really does. He could let how people saw him define him, but he chose something else.
Exactly. He constantly challenges those assumptions, constantly reminds everyone that there's more to him than meets the eye. And it's something we see right from his first appearance in the comics.
Oh, yeah. Were readers drawn to this right away? This whole looks can be deceiving thing.
Oh, totally. Everybody, even the other X-Men, they're shocked at first. But then they meet him, and they see his warmth, his humor, his genuine desire to do good.
And that's where his faith comes in, right? He's a devout Catholic.
Absolutely. It adds a whole other layer of complexity to him. Imagine, if you will, grappling with looking like a demon while striving for spiritual purity.
Whoa. Talk about a dichotomy. That's got to be a powerful internal struggle.
Yeah.
It's kind of like, well, you'd think those two things, demon and devout, wouldn't really go together. Was that always part of the plan for his character, or did that come later?
Well, that's where his parentage comes in. And this is where things get really interesting. See, Nightcrawler's parents, well, they're not exactly your average couple.
Oh, and they are.
His mother is none other than Mystique, the shape-shifting mutant.
No way.
Oh, yeah. And his father, that would be Azazel, who, for all intents and purposes, is a demon.
Hold on. Shape-shifting mom, demon dad. Talk about your family reunions. That's not just a twist. That's a whole other layer of complicated. So we've got this guy, right? It looks like a demon raised by circus folk, and now you're telling me his parents were a shapeshifter and a demon. What a mess. How does that even happen?
It's definitely a recipe for a complicated childhood, to say the least.
You think? I mean, Mystique's known for, what do they call them, manipulations. And Azazel, well, he's not exactly winning any World's Best Dad awards.
You're right on the money there. The comics actually delve into this. Nightcrawler's early years were, well, let's just say they weren't all sunshine and roses. He spent a lot of time hidden away, kept secret from a world that didn't understand him.
Oh, man, that's rough, especially for a guy who seems so outgoing, He always seems so ready to jump into the action, help people out. It's kind of amazing when you think about it. He could easily just gone the other way, embraced the whole demon thing.
You're absolutely right, and that's what makes Nightcrawler so compelling. Despite a really tough start, he chooses empathy, chooses to be selfless. This internal struggle, this push and pull between his nature and how he was raised, that's what makes him relatable.
It's like he's proving that it's not where you come from, it's the choices you make, right?
Yeah.
But speaking of choices, we've talked a lot about Nightcrawler's past, his family drama, but what about his powers? I mean, he can teleport. What else can this guy do?
Ah, his powers. Well, that's a whole other chapter in the Nightcrawler saga. He's famous for bamfing, as he calls it. You know, that signature teleportation.
Oh, yeah. Poof. He's gone. It's awesome. But if we're being honest, it's got to be more complicated than that, right? Like, if it were that easy, everyone would want to teleport. What makes his powers unique?
For one, it's not instant. There's this brief moment, a kind of transition between dimensions. And get this, he leaves behind the smell of brimstone.
Wait, seriously? Brimstone? Like from the underworld? That's crazy.
It's a small detail, maybe, but it adds this whole sensory element to his powers. Plus, kind of hints at his demon heritage. But more importantly, he can't just teleport anywhere, anytime. It's limited by distance and direction.
Well, that makes sense.
Yeah.
Otherwise, he'd be unstoppable, bamfing all over the place. But even with limits, he's still like insanely agile. All that circus training really paid off, right?
Right.
It's like all those years swinging from trapezes prepped him for like fighting alongside the X-Men. But we were talking about his teleportation. Does his mood ever mess with his powers? Or is it like purely physical?
It's funny you should mention that. Strong emotions, especially stress or fear, they can throw him off. You know, he needs to concentrate to teleport accurately. There's this one issue, X-Men #188, where he's trying to get into this super secure facility, but he's nervous, right? And he ends up bamfing into, well, the wrong place completely.
Yikes. Talk about a teleportation fail. It's like interdimensional stage fright.
Yeah,
And we were talking about his sword skills. That doesn't seem like something you'd expect, not with all the teleporting and stuff.
definitely unexpected, right? But yeah, he's a master swordsman, which, when you combine it with his agility, makes him a real threat. There's this awesome scene in the comics. He uses his tail to knock a weapon away, then boom, takes the guy down with his sword. So cool.
Okay, that's just awesome. This guy's got it all. The demon look, the teleporting, the sword skills, plus he's actually a good guy. But we haven't touched on his whole shadow blending thing. How does that work exactly? Is he, like, invisible?
It's not invisibility, not in the traditional sense, more like he blends with the darkness. Some think it's tied to his weird extra-dimensional biology, you know, a connection to the shadows themselves. It's not something he can do forever, but it definitely gives him an edge, especially when he combines it with his teleportation.
Wow. So we've covered a lot. This guy's got a crazy backstory, awesome powers. Why do you think he's so popular with fans? What makes him stand out, even among other X-Men?
I think he represents something we all struggle with, that gap between how people see us and who we really are. He shows us we can choose to be good, even if we come from, well, a dark place.
That's really well said. And get this, he almost became a priest at one point. Imagine, a teleporting priest bamfing around giving sermons. But I guess that's a story for another time. Well, that was a wild ride. We really got into the nitty-gritty of Nightcrawler, who he is, where he came from, what he can do. But trust me, this is just scratching the surface. There are tons of Nightcrawler stories out there just waiting to be discovered. So pick up a comic and see for yourself what makes this guy so amazing. Until next time, keep exploring.